Welcome to Mangum News. I'm your host, Elijah Mangum. This week we'll be discussing the assassination of Haitian President Jovenel Moïse, former President Trump suing big tech companies, the Delta variant causing a COVID-19 surge, and a Jackson councilman suggesting that the National Guard must be sent to Jackson in order to control the crime situation. Without further ado, let's begin. Haitian Prime Minister Claude Joseph announced on Wednesday that President Jovenel Moïse has been assassinated by an unknown gunman. While Jovenel Moïse was killed, the First Lady Martine Moïse was also shot, injured, and sent to a Miami hospital. The suspect in the assassination is still unknown. Also on Wednesday, former President Donald J. Trump announced from his vacation home in New Jersey that he is officially suing big tech companies Google, Facebook, and Twitter for censorship and his own banning from his social media platforms. As public health experts have warned for weeks, the Delta variant of COVID-19 is now a dominant strand circulating in Mississippi, causing a huge spike in cases and hospitalizations. Delta is now also the dominant strand in the United States. Nationally, the average number of new cases have started to trend upwards due to the localized Delta outbreaks in places like Mississippi that have low vaccination rates. Councilman Kenneth Stokes called on fellow council members Tuesday to support an emergency request to the governor to activate Mississippi's National Guard to help decrease violent crime in Jackson. Stokes did not request a specific number of troops at Tuesday's council meeting or propose how long troops may stay. Rather than voting on that resolution, the council moved the item to the city's Law Enforcement Committee for further discussion. This week I had the privilege to interview WLBT morning anchor and reporter Cheryl Lassiter to discuss her career and her advice to aspiring journalists. Now I am proud to present my full exclusive interview with Cheryl Lassiter. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I am doing great. How are you today? You doing all right?
Yes, I'm glad it's Wednesday. I'm glad the week is moving along quickly. I'll be on vacation next week, so I'm real happy.
So where are you going?
We're going to Las Vegas.
Cool.
Yes, me and my boys and my husband.
I'm so glad that you agreed to jump on.
Oh, I have no problem with it. I'm happy to help out.
All right, so I have some questions for you. It shouldn't take long, but I'm hope to have a great conversation.
Okay, sure, no problem.
All right. First off, how did you get started in broadcast journalism?
Well, it's funny. I went to college and thought I would do marketing or something. My major was communication studies. It wasn't necessarily broadcasting. And I started working in marketing, and I had my own business for a little while. I was doing actually medical transcription out of my apartment. This was in Maryland. I grew up in Maryland. And for some reason, I just got a real strong urge to work in a television newsroom. I loved watching the news. I loved seeing what the reporters did. And I thought I have to do this. It was a very strong pull. So I actually moved back in with my mother and started sending out resumes anywhere. I also started interning. I was a little older. I was already out of college. And I just took it upon myself to go and intern anywhere with a camera. I thought, it doesn't matter if it's a newsroom or if it's a production house, anywhere that had something to do with broadcast. And I did a couple of internships at these places. And I also sent out lots of resumes. And would you know that I got a job at the top, my number one choice? Out of all those places I sent resumes to, it was the NBC affiliate in Baltimore, WBAL. They were looking for somebody to help them with putting stories online. And this is when news stations just got the internet and they were just starting to get websites and develop an on-air presence. So I was helping them. They had a certain computer program where I was taking the reporter stories, turning them into print form, sticking them online, and putting pictures with them. And that was at WBAL in Baltimore, huge market. I think it was market 20 at the time, 20, 23, somewhere around there. And while there, I decided I really want to be on air because I just loved watching the reporters. So I would go out with them after my shift. I would go out with the reporters, and I ended up making a videotape, me doing fake live shots. And after 6 months at that job, I got my first on-air job, and that was in Salisbury, Maryland. That was my first on-air job. That was a much smaller market. So it was much different than what I was used to. But that's how I got started. I was very self-directed, extremely self-directed, and just very motivated to work in TV.
So what led to you going to WLBT?
Well, so my first on-air job was at WMDT. And of course, you want to move on from the smaller stations. So I made a reel there too. I made a tape and I sent it to a lot of different places. And I got a job in Lexington, Kentucky as the education reporter. So I went from market 160 something to market 60 something. I made a 100 market jump, which is really good. I don't know anybody in Kentucky, but I went there and was their education reporter for 2 years. And that's when I got the anchoring bug. I was always so nervous to anchor, though. I just had a lot of nerves, and it just never really worked out at that station. But I finally pieced together enough anchoring moments where I made a tape and sent it out again and got a job here at WLBT. I had no ties to the South. I have no family in the South. I didn't know anybody, never been to Mississippi, but I took the job. I came down here. And that was in the year 2000. And I was the weekend morning anchor. And I did that. I had planned to stay here for 2 years and move on. But I met my husband and got married and stayed.
Well, that's wonderful. And we're glad we've been glad to have you.
Well, that's really nice of you. It's a great station.
Oh, WLBT is my favorite. I just love watching anytime I can.
No, I'm glad. Well, I was the weekend morning anchor for more than 10 years. It was a long time. And then eventually we adopted the Fox station. We brought Fox over to this station. So we broadcast both Fox and LBT out of this station. And when Fox came along, I began anchoring the Fox morning news. And eventually I just developed to where I'm on the weekday morning show here.
All right. What is the day in the life of Cheryl Lassiter look like?
Right now, it's crazy. So I get up at 3:21 in the morning. I give myself that extra minute to sleep. 3:21. I pretty much timed it out to where that's probably the bare minimum I can, that's probably the last minute I can get up and still get everything done. So I get up at 3:21, do a little thing at home, drive to work, do my makeup and hair, and I'm on the air at 4:30 in the morning. So I work the morning show, and then I have pretty much of a break. And then we have Today at 11, which is our new show. Are you familiar with Today at 11?
Yes, I watch it every day I can.
Okay, that's our new show. And then I anchor the noon show. And then when I leave here, I, run errands. I have 2 kids at home. So I run errands, get groceries, get food for them, do what I need to do, go home, cook, walk the dog. These are daily things. Do whatever else I need to do at home, and I'm in bed by 7:30.
Well, it seems like you have a packed day.
I really do. I have a packed day. I give myself a little time to relax in the evenings, watch Netflix, which I love. I'm addicted to Netflix. But yeah, really packed. And then school will start again in August, so I'll be helping with homework and picking up my child from school, those things.
It's been interesting because I've been able to talk with Maggie Wade and Howard Ballou in the past, and just seeing their schedules, how it's different than some people in the mornings, but it's also still just as packed, if not more so.
Yes, that's true. I mean, we are very busy. And another thing about working in TV is that it's really like being a nurse or a doctor. You don't get holidays off. Because the news is on all the time. Every once in a while, we're preempted for, a parade or something like that or something.
Mhm.
The French Open. But we have to work every day. We have to work holidays. We have to the same kind of thing. So that kind of gives you another element of being tired. It just tires you out a little bit because you don't get those breaks. But we do it. We do it because we love it.
Yeah. And another interesting thing about you is you were in a movie, Runaway Bride. And
Yes,
can you tell us a little bit about how you got cast and your experience on set?
yes, that was so much fun. Okay, so I told you about that first on-air job I had at the small station in Salisbury, Maryland. Well, they shot some of the movie there. In fact, they shot most of it in Maryland. They might have shot all of it in Maryland, but they shot part of the movie in Salisbury. A lot of the. Have you ever seen the movie?
Just bits and pieces of it. I hadn't seen the whole thing.
Okay,
Just
well, there are
bits
certain
and pieces
parts of it where they're at a little, hair salon, and it's kind of in a quaint little town. And they filmed that in Salisbury, Maryland. And I knew about it. I knew the movie crew was coming, so I just said one day, I said, is anybody going to go cover this? And nobody did. So I said, well, I'm going to go. So I grabbed a photographer. We drove down to the movie set, and I said, hey, I'm with such and such station, WMDT. Can I interview Gary Marshall? He's the director. He directed Pretty Woman. He's a big kind of
Yeah.
romantic comedy director. And they said, all right, well, we'll ask him. Well, he came out and let me interview him. So I talked to him, and we really hit it off. We just got along, and he hugged me, and it was just really nice. The story turned out good. And then next thing you know, a couple of days later, I got a call, and they said, Gary, it was a producer, and they said, Gary would like you to play a reporter in this movie if you could. And I said, absolutely, I will. And they said, well, we're moving up to Towson. We're going to shoot the wedding scenes, and it's going to be in Towson, Maryland. Towson is where I went to college, Towson State University, so I knew it well. I said, I will be there. So I just took a couple days off work. I went back up home and went back up to my mom's house, hung out with her for a couple days, and went to the movie set in Towson. And it was this beautiful part of Maryland. There's like some vineyards. It's kind of a rural part, just some rural roads. And that's where they shot the church scenes. And it was so much fun. You go there, and I was what's called a day player. I wasn't an extra. I was a day player, which means, well, actually, I was an extra, but Gary Marshall wrote a line for me on a piece of paper and handed it to me. And it was, Ike, do you think you'll get your job back? I was supposed to ask Richard Gere that line when the media circus closes in on him, because it was a big media spectacle that he was marrying this runaway bride. And they told me, some of the other actors told me, he handed you that piece of paper so you have proof that you got a line. That means you're a day player, which means you will get paid for this movie for the rest of your life. And I do. I still get paid. I get paid like, I'd say about $50 a year I make off that movie. They just send me little checks, like $5 here, $10 here, every time they rebroadcast it somewhere. But anyway, so I hung out on that movie set, and it's interesting because there's so much more downtime on a movie set than there is action time. It's like the action, and then you'll do a scene, and then they say cut, and then they have to change the lighting, they have to move things, there's like 20 minutes in between every scene. So there was a lot of downtime, but it was neat because I got to talk to Richard Gere. He was a really nice guy. I never met Julia Roberts, but I saw her. She was like 10 feet away from me. And she was wearing a big wedding dress, and it was cold that day. So in between scenes, she put a big leather jacket over her wedding dress. It was really cool to see that. I met some other big stars. Rita Wilson, who is Tom Hanks's wife, she's in the movie. I met her. And then after that, and I just played a member of that media circus. So like I was kind of pushing in on Richard Gere, trying to stick a microphone in his face. And there was a scene where we kind of ran up the church steps. That didn't make it in the movie. It was cut. I'm running after him when Julia goes away in the FedEx truck. When she takes off in the FedEx truck, he's chasing her and we're all running after him. So it was just a lot of fun. And I also asked Gary if I could hang out on the movie set more. He said, sure. So there's at the beginning of the movie, there's a scene in a bar where there's a drunk guy and he's talking about the runaway bride. And I got to sit there in the bar when they were shooting that scene. So that was a lot of fun. And Celia Ward is in that scene. And Celia Ward is from Meridian. So that's a little tie to Mississippi. She's in that scene too.
And the last question I have for you is, what is your advice to an aspiring journalist?
Well, I would say intern. The most important thing you can do is intern while you're in college. If you want to work in a newsroom in any capacity, intern and take on as much responsibility as you can. You know, we have interns that come in and they kind of sit and wait for somebody to give them something to do. But I mean, jump in and say, I want to see how you write scripts because I want to start doing that. You know, or I want to see how do you work this? How do you work this camera? Or what are you all doing in this room? And just, you know, ask if you can do it. Ask if you can take part. Ask reporters to go out with them. That's something I did when I was working in Baltimore. I was like, hey, you know, can I go out with you tonight? And they're like, sure, come on. And I would just sit there and I was taking up space and probably got in their way, but that's how you learn. You know, you got to kind of put yourself out there. You really have to be assertive and you have to practice. If you want to be on air, you really have to practice. It comes naturally, but at the same time, I mean, it takes a little while to hone that down. So you have to practice. You have to get a feel for writing scripts. It's a constantly developing process. So that's my thing. You learn by doing. So get out there and just get into a newsroom.
Well, I'm so glad. Thank you again for agreeing to do this. I know taking some time out of your day. This has meant a lot.
Oh, no problem. But also,
and I hope to soon. Maggie Wade and Howard Blue had offered when the station opens back up to visitors someday that I was going to come down to the station, and I had plans to go to both the evening and the morning one day. So,
good.
So I would like to get a feel of both, and then eventually intern, because this is the station that is my goal.
Well, good. So you've been watching us since you were a little kid, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of interesting because originally, like I told Maggie Wade and Howard Blue, was I originally started out wanting to do theater, and then that kind of just evolved into and then when I had an interest in like current events and the news and the media, I started moving away from the theater film aspect of it and moving towards more of the news aspect. And
Yes.
for a good while now, I've been that has been my thing. So I've been so now I have this show that I started doing that I've been able to have people on and do the news every week. And so it's been a lot of fun, and it's been really helpful to me.
Good. Yeah. Well, you know, another good thing about working in a newsroom is that you learn about a lot of different things. You learn about politics, you learn about crime, you learn about how police act, you just learn about so many different things. You kind of have to, because when you're a reporter, you have to become an expert in a day on whatever you're reporting on. So and you get to meet a lot of people. So it's, you know, definitely a rewarding career.
Well, thank you so much, and I'll see you today at 11. That's all we have for this week. Make sure to like and share and subscribe on YouTube and Facebook. Unfortunately, there will be no Mangum News next week. However, Mangum News will return on Sunday, July 25th at 7 p.m. Thanks for watching, and we'll see y'all then.